Welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the deferred sales trust is an amazing way for you to exit highly appreciated multi-million-dollar assets, businesses, cryptocurrency, defer the tax, not using a 1031 exchange, so you can create and preserve more wealth or help your clients, friends, and family do the same. Hey, we're also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets, where each and every episode we are bringing in some of the best real estate, financial, business minds, and entrepreneurs in the world, where they share their ideas and deal stories. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Texas, and he's an experienced. He has an experienced background as a chief engineer and demonstrated history of success in maritime industry. And over the years, he's honed his skills in managing diesel generators, steam turbine generators, boilers, and safety management systems. And his passion for engineering problem solving led him to excel in various technical aspects of maritime domain. And recently, he has taken a leap into the exciting world of real estate investing, co-founding the Sicilian brothers, where they specialize in turning opportunities into profits and showing others how to do that through their mastermind and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Nick Sicilian. Nick, how you doing?
Hey, great, man. Thanks for having me. I apologize. When we were talking earlier, I forgot to mention my original background, which was engineering. So I feel like I threw you for a loop there for a second.
It is no problem at all. We like loops here. We like, legal tax flow loops, loopholes at times. We also like just to go live and just rock and roll here. So for our listeners to get to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Brett said, I started out actually as a marine offshore engineer. I used to work on container ships and tankers. I went to SUNY Maritime, which is an academy up there, got my Coast Guard license, was working offshore for a lot of years, and I had 2 kids, and it was getting tough. My oldest son, Damon, that one, he was 4 at the time, and he was nonverbal. So every time I'm working offshore, I'm leaving for 6 to 8 months, of the year at a time. It was just getting harder and harder for me to leave. So I hung up the boots in a sense, and I left my offshore life. I gave up a $200,000 job just to jump wholeheartedly into real estate. I got into the family business. I like to call it the family business because my brother Tony, who's my partner, the Sicilian brothers we formed, he's been doing it for about 20 years. My mom works at a title company. She was a realtor up in New York. That's where we were born and raised. We moved down to Texas we started migrating about 20 years ago. Just started seeing what the boom was in the early 2000s. It was such a better cost of living and just better opportunities. So we just started all moving down and got into, like I said, I got into real estate, got into hard money lending, started doing great things with that, kind of learned right from the fire hose in a sense. When you're doing investment financing, that's how you're going to learn everything, right? Doing so many different deals and analyzing them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your service and your background. That's fantastic. And we're going to be talking about wholesaling, flipping, and cash flow with Nick Sicilian. By the way, if you want to connect with Nick right now, you can go to reiaf.com. That's reiaf.com. And just look up the Sicilian Brothers on YouTube, which is up to, I think, 70,000 subscribers. So check that out for sure. Tons of great content there. But Nick, before we dive into wholesaling, flipping, and cash flow and ways to grow wealth with that, I do want to take one other step back. I believe we've all been given certain gifts, and these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. I'm curious, what would you say the 1 or 2 gifts that you've been given, and how does it help how you bless and help people today?
So 2 things, right? I'm very analytical. That's just the engineer part of me. Tony, I was like, how the hell am I going to get into real estate? Tony's like, listen, you're going to be fine. You can talk to people. That's all you need to do. The rest you'll learn. And that was kind of like a saving grace. So having that ability was great. The other thing I would say superpower would be, it was kind of like a backhanded compliment. I was once told by my Little League coach that I'll be a great coach one day. I was like a short little fat player. So I was always riding the bench, and he's like, man, you're going to be the best coach one day. Because I was very supportive, and that's always been me. I will, there's no secrets to life, right? Everybody can find anything. Anybody can go on YouTube University and find anything out, right? So there's no secrets. It's just allowing and helping people to have that knowledge, where to find it, and just really supporting people. I literally live and die by the abundance principle, and you'd be amazed how far that can take you.
Amazing. I love it. Absolutely. We're talking with Nick Sicilian, and it sounds like analytical engineer background and that strength of being able to look at the details, also connect with people and be supportive and coach and share all the secrets, be abundant mindset. With that being said, let's dive right into the topic at hand. Nick, what would you say the number one secret is to wholesaling, flipping, and creating cash flow in real estate?
A lot of people overcomplicate things. That's really the secret. Is there is no secret, right? It's an easy formula. You have distressed sellers, and you have to find them, right? So what is your distressed seller, right? So first look at that. Are they going to be people that are getting pre-foreclosed? Were they probate? Did somebody just pass away, right? So find out what your avatar is, and then just start going to search for that avatar. After that, you're just going to have to break down and have hard conversations. That's if you're going direct to seller, right? Again, people always overcomplicate things, and they think that they can't crack this code, right? They get so built up in the fear of the unknown. Listen, we don't know what we don't know. So just move forward. You're going to pay an education one way or another, right? So whether you're paying it in mistakes, or you're paying it in education beforehand, or you're paying it in lost profit from deal over analysis paralysis, right?
Excellent. That's a great start. I mean, this is really key here, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Take action on what you do know, right? And understand that it's just about finding distressed sellers wherever they might be at. And if you can find them find them, then start to take some action. I think that sounds like the key. That's the first secret.
Yeah.
Don't overcomplicate it. What would you say the next step or secret is to wholesaling, flipping, and cash flow?
So taking action is always step one, right? Step two is, and you're going to have to put in some time, right? So I always say, starting out, right, you have the triangle with the three things. It's time, money, and experience, but you can only have two, right? So as you grow, you get more money and experience, but you don't have any time. Well, starting out, you're going to have a lot of time. So put in the legwork. If you're working a 9 to 5 and you're trying to do this as a side hustle, right? Start working phones at night. You're going to have to put in legwork, whether or not it's working phones or driving for dollars or door knocking, right? You're going to have to put in some legwork up front that will later on pay off.
Got it. I like how you said that. You can only have two, right? Time, money, and experience, and basically figure out which ones you have. And I imagine if you're wholesaling, flipping, cash flow, figure out which two you have, and then just dive right into that. Is that a fair summary, Nick?
Yeah, so you're going to leverage what you have for what you don't have, right? So as me in our business, right, I don't have a lot of time. So I leverage it by other people's time, right? We have VAs, we have a whole staff. I have a whole acquisitions and a dispositions team, right? I'm not there anymore. With that being said, starting out, it was just me and Tony, right? We're working the phones, we're working the emails, we're working everything. So you have to leverage what you do have to get what you don't have.
So let's dive into that. I think that's key for a lot of people who are listening, right? A lot of people they have good experience, they have good net worths, they build businesses or real estate, but that they're constantly learning how to grow and scale. So what was the best way that you found to be able to leverage your time and to scale with team members within your organization and those different divisions?
You have to sit down and do the, I forget the name of the chart, but it's pretty much what you're really good at and what you're what you hate doing. It's the 4 charts. I can't even think about it. I'm going blank now. But anyway, you have to delegate what you're not good at, right? So There's a great book called The Pumpkin Patch, and it's kind of like that theory. You're always investing in what makes you money and what you're good at, right? So what that means, let me step back out. I'm not good with sellers, right? I should never be on the phone doing acquisitions. I came from an engineering background. Why would I want to jump in and start trying to buy houses from distressed sellers? That's not my background. Why would I do that? That's Tony's background. So he does all acquisitions. We're just giving him on the phone. I'm very good with systems and stuff. So I build out the systems because that's what I'm good at, right?
Absolutely. So good with systems versus good with sellers. That's a good way to delineate it, right, Nick? You could say, hey, what would you feel you're better at? Just top line. Are you better at systems or better with people, right? That doesn't mean you're not both, but what would you say gives you energy, gives you strength, like that you tend to excel at. And then let's pour into that so you can continue to do that, and let's delegate the rest out. Is that a fair summary, Nick?
Yeah, exactly. You really have to focus on what your strengths are, what makes you money, right? And then delegate out the rest, right? Again, if you're not competent at something, don't be focusing time and energy on it, right? Delegate that out and let somebody else take it.
Talk about bringing on and attracting, retaining talent, right? And hiring, because I think that all makes sense. Like, we get that, right? And we have a small team. We're growing our team, but still we're learning every day how to attract, retain, build systems, delegate. It feels like it's like a constant battle. But what would you say is like the one big thing that helped you to be able to properly do that and retain talent for long periods of time?
So thankfully, my background, right? I've been under some salty old chief engineers, right? Like, you do something wrong, they're going to throw a wrench at you. With that being said, I know how not to run a successful engine room, in a sense. And a small business is nothing more than an engine room, right? There's a tiers and everybody has their jobs and due diligence. But you really have to make sure that the people that are working for you enjoy working for you. If you know that if you're riding them so much and they hate coming to work, they're not going to be productive. They're not going to be wanting to grow your business, because that's what they're doing, right? Once you start hiring out people, you have to realize that they need to eat. It's a downside, but you have to feed them, right? So you have to make sure that they're being taken care of. As long as they're not worrying about those things, then they can thrive, right? With that being said, that doesn't mean that you overpay him and everything. It's just make sure that everything is cohesive, right? They're coming to work, they're happy. If they need something, they're getting it. If they're not, if they're having issues, you're going to sit down and talk to them, right? Find out, oh, they're having problems at home. Oh, well, I'm not a therapist, but we can chat, and maybe I can make their day a little bit better.
Yeah. So caring about them, looking out for them, make sure they're getting paid well, and also understanding that it's like an engine room. Again, I guess back to your number one point, keeping it simple, right? It is like an engine room. There's certain things that need to be done in certain ways. Let's train you. Let's delegate those things to you, and then let them run with it. Is that a fair summary? Or any other like little tips about, like, as an engineer, right, the way that you've done that effectively to make sure it sustains and continues to go?
I mean, when you hire somebody, you have to be setting expectations, right? And it comes down to that first meeting. If you typically, me and Tony, if we've ever had to fire people, usually we always come back, it was our fault first, right? We either we shouldn't have hired them, or we didn't do a good enough job of training them or something, right? Like, you always have to look inward. So when you're hiring somebody, you have to be setting those expectations, whether or not it's an acquisitions person or anything, right? Hey, I expect you to be doing this, that, the other. I want you to come in Monday at 9 a.m. You're going to work till here. I want you to be doing this many calls. Whatever their job requirements are, you lay it out for them. After that, don't micromanage them, right? Like, let them do that. If they fall outside of those parameters and they stop making, right, their thing, that's when you come back in and you give them a check, and you not write a check, but like give them a prompt, right? You're going to touch them in a sense and say, hey, what's going on? Why aren't you meeting XYZ, right? Always have expectations and hold them accountable to those. But other than that, sit back, right? Don't be overbearing.
Got it. I love it. We're talking with Nick Sicilian, REIAF.com. He's got a mastermind. He's going to teach you how to grow your wealth with wholesaling, flipping, and cash flow. They've done a ton of deals, hundreds of deals, and they like to coach and help people and share all their secrets on their YouTube channel and in their mastermind. Nick, let's get back into real estate, right? Because I know this you guys probably wondering, what are we talking about, the hiring and stuff? Well, that's about running a business, right? Because guess what? You start wholesaling, you start flipping, you start bringing in cash flow, you start to want to scale. You're going to have to become an entrepreneur, business owner, or just if you want to scale that to any height, you're going to have to be able to delegate. So what else did you want to touch on? I mean, even just talk about your mastermind and how you help people to do this and help to get that support to move forward, to be able to, grow their wealth.
Everybody wants to scale because they think it's going to make their life easier, right? They'll start out, and usually the progression is they're going to start out, they'll break their teeth in wholesaling, and then maybe they'll hire out some VAs because it's relatively cheap or inexpensive labor, and then they expect the VAs to make their life easier. Like, the whole point of scaling is to actually generate more work for you, so your life is going to get busier and harder, right, with those things. So never scale until you're ready, right? Always build out your foundation. Otherwise, you're just going to be scaling chaos, and otherwise, that's a nightmare. Never do that.
Got it. Very well said. That's good wisdom. Make sure you're building the right foundation. I guess it's like an engineer, right? Don't build your house on the sand. We're in the middle of a hurricane actually today. We're not getting hit very hard. It kind of missed us here in Northeast Florida. But the point is, don't build on the sand, build on the rocks, so that when you do scale, you can do more work, maybe more efficient work, help more people make a bigger impact. But if you're not building it right, then you're just scaling to chaos. Is that a fair summary, Nick?
Yeah. I mean, Tony and I, for an example, right? We went out, hired VAs. I didn't have the systems in place. Tony's never worked with VAs before. We ran them for 6 months. I don't think we got any leads out of them. It was a complete just setting money on fire. And it took us way too long to cut that system out because we didn't have it set up. But that was us. We were trying to scale chaos at the time. So always try to avoid that.
By the way, how did you adapt? That's a good kind of case study, right? So you figure out how you did it wrong. You said, okay, this isn't working. And then how did you rebuild that from the ground up to actually make it work?
So that, like I said, you have to cut it off in a sense, right? If something from days, I used to say minor changes have big effects. So you're not going to do something as drastic as cut off an entire marketing stream, but adjust and try never have only one source of marketing, right? It's not like we were only doing cold callers. Cold calling was an additional, all right, let's try this, let's try XYZ, and we added that. We usually run a marketing campaign for at least 3 to 6 months before we do any major tweaks, because it's going to have to run just to get through the cycles. But yeah, I would say never expect to go into something and it be the end all save all. Always expect to have to make changes and tweaks and
awesome.
see how things play out, right?
I love it. Absolutely love it, Nick. Thank you so much. Let's shift a little bit here. Let's talk about the biggest challenge of the 1031 exchange, right? You help people with investments, and maybe people are selling crypto, primary homes, businesses, even fix and flips, right? And what would you say the biggest challenge when it comes to the 1031 exchange or capital gains tax when you, your brother, or anyone else that you're working with exit assets?
It would be trying to find the likeness, right? So if we were to sell a high end property and then 1031 that over, right? Trying to find a similar asset to put it into, right? That would be our challenge, but overall, they're not that bad. Our market is good enough where we have plenty of deal flow. That's
Absolutely. Yeah, we call that the blockbuster way of exiting, right? Like you exit a piece of real estate and you want to be able to go into like a business venture, but it's unlike kind. And so it doesn't allow for that. Even more so than that, the 1031's been even limited more. Let's imagine you're exiting crypto or a business. It doesn't allow for a 1031 exchange. And now it never allowed it for crypto or even public or private stock. 1031's really only ever been for like business and real estate, but now it's only for investment real estate.
Mhm.
Enter the deferred sales trust. If anyone wants to know how to eliminate the need for the 1031 exchange, exit any asset of any kind and not be stuck in that have to do the like kind. In other words, you can exit, we said a short-term deal, wholesale deal. It was $37 million actually mostly in Austin, Texas area for a client last year where he tied up some land, Nick. He improved it. It was less than a year. And instead of getting hit with that ordinary income tax, he moved it into the trust and deferred all the tax. And then he can invest it back into other investments, his business ventures, his development projects, fix and flips, all tax deferred, not using the 1031 exchange. And so it is possible to be able to diversify and to move your wealth in a way that gives you freedom and access to deals. You just have to understand how to do that. And this is why we're here. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com if you want to learn more how to build an exit plan anytime you exit. That being said, Nick, are you ready for the lightning round?
Yeah, hit me with it.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Delayed gratification. I can't even say that word.
Delayed gratification?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Learn up on it, read it, understand it, and hold on to every property you can. That goes back to every wholesaler. That goes back to every flipper, right? I don't think I've ever heard somebody say, "Oh man, I wish I didn't hold that one." Everybody says, "I wish I held that one." So be in it for delayed gratification. I can't talk, but you know,
delayed gratification. I get you.
Yeah,
if you never sell and you only ever maybe cash out refi and buy that next deal, it's tough to lose as long as you don't over leverage yourself, right? So be aware of the ability to build long-term wealth by holding. It's like collecting all of the pieces on the boardwalk, right? In Boardwalk Park Place on Monopoly, right? Cool. Question number 2. What's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
It's an odd one actually. It's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F, right? I say that should be standard reading in high school, just because it has to do with psychology. But that one's a good one.
Excellent. Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
The market, where the hell we're going. It's going to be a fun 2 years.
I couldn't agree more. Question number 4. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Burn the boats. That's my entire life model ever since I hung up my engineering boots, in a sense, right? Burn the ships by Cortez.
Excellent. Love it. Last question, Nick, after helping all the people you've helped in your mastermind with the YouTube channel with reiaf.com. What's the number one practice that you use to stay centered in your values and stay encouraged to charge forward to reach higher heights?
You always got to come back to centered, right? And so whatever center is for you. For me, that's my family. Okay, so whatever's going on at the end of the day, if I'm closing a big deal, a deal just fell out, I have people calling me, yada yada yada, whatever's going on in day-to-day life, you have to have a way to come back to center. For me, it's my family. I come home, I have 2 boys, Damon, Logan, and they bring me back to center. You have to remember why you're doing everything. Otherwise, I mean, we're just in a rat race at the end of the day, and we're all going in the same place. So why do we put ourselves in the chaos that we do?
Nick, Sicilian, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for sharing so much wisdom with us. And I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts you've given as an analytical brain, engineer brain background, also being supportive in coaching others and giving away your secrets in an abundance mentality. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
So we're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, thesicilianbrothers.com. Our mastermind is reiaf.com. Hit us up, follow along. We love it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nick. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, also showing Expert CRE Secrets Podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options when exiting any asset of any kind. And you want to have a plan. You want to have a team in place because guess what? It's not just about cash flow. It's about tax flow. And that tax flow can be a huge, huge pain, upwards of 25 to 50% of your proceeds or your gain. So you want to be aware of ways to defer that to grow your wealth. So go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more. Check out the new book too that just came out. It's on Amazon, hit #1 bestseller. We have people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book and other multifamily syndicators, operators, financial advisors. I got a couple chapters too, but it's all about building a capital gains tax exit plan. You can take action right now by getting that on Amazon. That being said, we appreciate everyone watching and listening out there, and we look